Oh,
Hello.
perfect. How are you, Joe?
I'm so look. I think, oh my goodness, I think I've got a wisdom tooth coming through, and it's
Oh,
mucked up my whole throat and voice and face. I feel like I look slightly deformed, so I'm so
no, you
sorry I'm not my glamorous
don't at all.
self.
No, no,
But
no,
I'm
no
getting
worries.
wiser. I'm getting
Yeah,
wiser.
no, no, no worries at all. Yeah, I know it can be so bad. I've had those issues as well, like with your teeth, and it's like it's the worst thing because your whole body gets swollen. Like you've got a headache sometimes. Like you can be bedbound. It's one of the worst things. So thanks for showing up today, anyway.
Oh, I was so excited though. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. Busy, busy day. Just meetings and stuff like that. But it's quite nice that the live is at 6:30.
Yes.
The end of the day can also get a facial treatment in with the routine that we're going to be doing, which is great. But yeah, no, I'm excited. I mean, we've spoken about this for a while, so it's nice that it's actually finally happening.
Absolutely. We're going to be doing like we're trying all your products out live and talking through all of them, which I'm so excited about.
For sure. Hi guys in the chat. Hi, hi everyone. Hi S Spice. Hi Dave Davs. So how should we start this? Should we? So obviously we're going to be doing a face mask treatment. We've got some questions lined up. Do you first want to start with like doing some? Let's start with an intro maybe.
Okay,
Yeah, let's start with an intro. So would you want to maybe intro yourself to everyone that's like watching in? How would you define yourself? I mean, you've
sure.
got such a vast amount of experience. How would you describe it?
Well, I'm soon becoming an industry veteran because I've been doing my job for 20 years now, and I started off in the fashion side of the arts, if you
Yeah.
will, and discovered international beauty lines that I couldn't find in the UK, and it just got me hooked on everything beauty. And I was a very big creator online for 10 years, and then I wanted to train to make makeup and to do more diversity, equity, and inclusion guidelines.
Mm.
And for the last 10 years, again, the second half of my career, I've just been designing products, designing the DEI strategies, and doing all kinds of things. But I guess fundamentally, I'm an artist and a bit of a crazy person. But
Yeah.
that's me. And my
Because
pronouns are anything you want. I'm
yeah.
not fussed.
And it's crazy because it's like it's very rare that you meet a person in the beauty industry that's been so through so many different facets of it. I mean, you've been like behind the scenes in the meeting, you've been on the camera, you've been, doing tours and stuff like that, and you were, I guess, the real social media veteran before the whole thing started. So it'll be good to get into that in a second as well. Yeah,
Yes, yes. Tell me
great.
about you. How did you start your brand and everything?
So yeah, obviously Frank's Remedies started. It launched in 2020, but it was really a decade in the making. From like having really bad experience with GP prescription medications. Did you ever have any issues with like prescriptions and things like that with like your skin at all?
I
Yeah.
did. I had terrible, terrible. Well, it actually wasn't acne. It was pseudo
Oh wow.
folliculitis. And I was being completely mistreated for it. I went through the whole route of the
Yeah.
antibiotics. I went through Zinnerit lotions, Doxolane, all that jazz. And then I went on Accutane. And it was only in the, like, I guess the last 5 years that I've actually got to the root of it. And it was my hair growth, because some of my hairs
Yeah.
curl and they were getting blocked
Yeah.
before they could actually get out, and it was resembling acne. So
Wow.
I was being mistreated for a long, long while. I had lots of bad, dodgy experiences. I've had laser gone wrong. I've been mistreated. Steroid creams to try and stop it, which went wrong.
Same
But
thing with
as you know,
me.
these things are
Yeah.
terrible. They're so bad for your skin, really.
It's crazy because every single time I speak to someone about like GP prescriptions or having a skin condition and going to the GP, there's always like this kind of like conversation that sometimes they feel that they've been misdiagnosed, or sometimes their skin's become more damaged with that. So I had a similar experience. So I went on Roaccutane after like 5 years of like different types of treatments and things like that. And for me, like when I first went on it, I was like really excited to go on it because I was thinking, this is going to be the one thing that actually works for my skin, um, not knowing the actual kind of like damage it can do to your body. And it's been great. I think the drug for other people, but I think for me, especially after probably a few weeks while being onto it, I wasn't able to walk. I think I mentioned this to you before, and that's because like the drug itself can dry out all the synovial fluid, which is like the liquid in your bones that allow it to lubricate and move. So yeah, at that point, I thought clear skin wasn't worth that much, and started looking at making my own products. But it's quite interesting now because Roaccutane's trending, and I don't know if you've seen on TikTok or online now. It's actually trending because people are actually wanting to take it to get like a slimmer nose
Mhm.
because it constricts the pores and stuff like that. But it's crazy because it's like obviously that's like a last resort for many people, but there's like kind of like you know admiration that's going to do something aesthetically to you when that's obviously not the intention. So it's really interesting to think about.
Definitely. I mean, like people don't really even understand that it needs to be specific to your weight, and
Yeah,
there's some doctors that just give out a dosage based on what their expectation of like treating the skin is
yeah.
before even weighing people. And I've had so many horror stories like yours. I'm sorry you had to go through that.
I mean, same thing, but I mean, it's great because you know use that as experience, and I think with that now it's like it's been such a great and enriching experience now that I've been able to go through that and also navigate other people that are looking to go through that, or you know perhaps like um, steer them away from other skin problems that can exist, or just you know letting them know the dangers or the issues that can go wrong with that.
And
So yeah,
you
good.
made amazing
Yeah,
alternatives.
no, appreciate that. Thank you so much. Should we go with cleansing? Yeah,
Yes, yes. Tell me, because I've been using all the products since you sent me them. I love them. I was familiar
yeah.
before you sent them, but
Um,
I'm just like, what's the routine? Guide me through.
so we're, so we're going to go through the whole routine today. Today we're actually going to start with the Miracle Waters face wash.
Mm-hmm.
Have you done much of your skincare today? Is it just the morning that
I've
you've done
only
your
done
prep?
my morning. I'm feeling like a dusty old
Oh,
carcass, so I'm ready to go.
perfect. So yeah, let's go with the Miracle Waters face wash. So this is a great way to like take the day off. Um, I've mentioned to you before as well. So it's a great cocktail of like deep cleansing and pore purifying actives, but you're really getting a lot of moisture in there too as well. So typically with face washes, um, you know, can range from around like 70 to 80% of having water in the product. But with this product, you can actually see one of the first ingredients is aloe vera leaf juice. So for me, when formulating the products, it was really important to take skin health on board.
Mhm.
You obviously know how important the skin barrier is, and I often find that when your skin gets stressed or is like reactive, the worst thing you can do is you know put more like harsher ingredients on it and kind of like give this false appearance of clear skin. So this
Yeah.
product's really great at like working with your skin, improve the moisture levels, and you just wake away. You just after you finish, your skin just feels a lot more fresher and a lot more brighter. So let's go with that now.
Okay. How many
Have you got
pumps do you use?
say again? Sorry.
How many pumps do you use?
I use around one to
Okay.
two, 1 to 2. Yeah. How many do you use?
Well, because I normally wear polyfiller level makeup, but
Yeah.
I might have to do a double cleanse. I might have to get rid of the makeup first and then use this. So I'll do like probably
Is
more
that
than
like
average.
is that like thicker makeup, like real like professional, like full on?
Yeah, we gotta keep it on. It's gotta look fabulous.
Do you have to like cleansing oils and cleansing balms for that?
I do.
Yeah.
I make my own oil because I can't normally get with my skin because I'm covering a beard. I normally
Yeah.
use waterproof products so it doesn't come off like throughout the
Okay.
day. And that's the evil one that I can't deal with. It just does not come off with regular cleansers. So I start with an oil and then I
Right.
emulsify it and then I use a proper cleanser when my skin's clean.
Yeah.
But I love the smell of your products. They're so amazing.
Thank you. Thank you. What is your skin type, by the way? Because I don't ever see ever like any skin issues from you. But do you have like what would you say your skin type is? Do you ever have any concerns?
No, well, to be honest, I've kind of got used to my skin enough to treat anything if they do arise. I'm very dry,
Yeah.
but I don't really have much concerns anymore. It used to be literally whenever I would shave, I would break out around my
Because
beard,
of
and
the
it took.
folliculitis you were saying. Yeah.
Yes, and it's so frustrating because no one diagnosed it. It was actually because like there's so many I think when they train skincare, they use the model of like the
Yeah.
Caucasian skin, Caucasian hair
Yeah.
types, and they don't know about curly
Yeah.
hair. They don't know how it gets stuck under the
Yeah.
skin. And I was just seeking out like help from the wrong places. And it was only by chance that I met a dermatologist that really said to me, Joe, if you've got any kind of heritage where your family's beards are
Yeah.
curly, that could be what this is, because it's not anything to do with what we can do. So
Yeah.
it was a miracle, really.
Wow. Yeah, because I mean, so many people would, I think, like mistreat that. They would probably think it's like acne or spots and things like that. And I actually recently done a newsletter about this because it was to do with the spots that you can get on your forehead,
Mm.
like under the skin, and that's actually to do with type of
Yeah.
folliculitis.
Yeah.
But it's a type of like it's kind of like known as like a fungal type of acne as well. So it needs a different type of treatment as well. So like one of our ingredients that we have in our face gel. Um, it's got like a few elements of like antifungal ingredients, so it's really great at like tackling those elements. But the worst kind of spots is like the ones that are under the skin because it's very very hard
Yeah.
to treat as well, which is yeah very very hard. So
Yeah.
are you cleansed
All
now?
cleansed,
Yeah,
feeling fresh, and it's so nice to smell this because it just brings you back down to like.
it's really refreshing. Yeah, no, it's really refreshing. So let's go with that mask, and then we've got some really really great questions lined up. Really can't wait to get into it. Um,
Yes. So
so
tell me about this product because this is bringing things back to you're in control of the skincare, isn't it? You can mix it with different
yeah,
things. So what's your advice? Tell me what to do.
so this is the ultimate detox face mask. So for me, the one reason why I kind of like made it in this kind of like powder, like tailorable form is it was actually inspired when I actually went to Iceland. So when I actually had acne myself, I went to the Blue Lagoon thinking like the water might like magically heal my skin, and it was good. Like it was very therapeutic and stuff like that. But through this, I actually learned. Have you ever been to the Blue Lagoon in Iceland?
Never, but I've dreamt of going.
It's quite cool. So one thing that when you're actually in the water, they actually make these face masks from scratch. So some of them are like French green clay, but it's like single ingredients, and then they make it from scratch, and then you can basically have the face mask on while you're in the water, which is like really really great. And at the
Oh.
time, obviously before that, this is like obviously before this is like 2015 to 2020 times. You weren't really getting much products like that. You kind of had your set face mask. And what
Mhm.
I kind of basically found that, as my skin state kind of changed, as it got more dehydrated, I was using all these like, different types of products. I had like 5 or 6 different face masks that I was using. And I just thought there must be like a simpler way of doing it. So with this product, it's got like lava ash in this, so it's really great at detoxifying the skin. It's got activated charcoal, which is actually made from coconut shells, a 200 times element of aloe vera, Russell clay. So it's really great at like naturally detoxifying the skin, but also being like a magnet for like environmental pollution.
Mhm.
To go back to your question of like why it's so great at being tailorable, is that you can basically activate it with water if you want like your standard face mask. But as your skin state changes throughout the year, for example, as we go into spring, your skin maybe become more like problematic. Like I love to like activate this like with rose water perhaps, or like sometimes I'll use like a green tea, for example, or I've got like loads of like herbal teas in my kitchen, so I kind of like remedy that up, and it's a quite nice like it's a nice in between way of like doing a DIY face mask, but still it being very professional and very safe.
Mhm.
Uh, yeah, so that was the reason for this product. And it's also got 2 types of exfoliants in this as well. So it's got microfoliant clay, um, which helps give that kind of like physical exfoliation, and it's also got a very low dose of 1% BHA salicylic acid. So it's a really nice combination of exfoliation as well.
I love it.
Yeah.
And how much do you recommend
So
using?
I always do a capful. So just do a capful like this,
Mhm.
and you can always like add a bit more in your mask once you need to. What are you activating your mask with, by the way?
I'm going to be using some vitamin E kind of
Oh, nice.
spray because I thought it would be good to moisturize as well because I'm so dry today. But I've
Yeah.
been back in the day, I was saying this to you earlier, like I used to mix honey with clay. I used to get the pink clay, I used to get it from the health food shops way back when
Yeah.
and mix them with honey. And I guess that would kind of work as well.
That's quite a good one. I mean, I've never tried that, but how's that the consistency like with the? Does it
Oh,
still like
it
form into
was
a paste?
perfect. It was so perfect. And I just loved it because it was like my bath time, like just
Ritual.
routine. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
a
Oh,
ritual.
nice. So I'm gonna go in with some like just rose water. So same thing with you. My skin's just feeling a bit dehydrated. Just when you're on the go with everything, it's quite hard to keep hydrated. So this would be quite nice to get some treatment in. Is your mask made already?
Yep.
Yeah. Cool.
Am I good to just
Yeah.
paint it on with my fingers?
Let's go in. Let's go in with it.
No, how thick do you think you need to apply it? Like, tell me if it's too little or too much.
So I like kind of like let's see what you got. I think you've got it right. So it's like a nice like a paste kind of like consistency. So are you using your hands? I
Yeah.
thought you'd be using a brush.
No, I'm actually surprisingly like so. No, I have to get in. Even when I do makeup, everyone thinks I'm going to be like this like crazy artist, but I use my fingers for so much. Well,
I found
I
it
saw
quite.
that. You know the incredible Pat McGrath. I saw her do a demo when she launched her cosmetics line, and she did lipstick with her finger.
Oh yeah, I always see that. She always does it with it. And she says that the fingers help with the warmth, I think, to actually add it to the product, I think, yeah.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. It's actually quite hard doing the whole adding the product onto your face like while you're talking and then actually like showing it off and stuff like that. I guess you're used to that. Like what was life like 10 years ago when you were on YouTube and like because obviously there wasn't much creators like, doing beauty videos or even how to record and stuff like that. Can you talk about that process? What was that like for you?
Oh my God. Well, I always joke when I get to film on location now because with the iPhones, you can just make a beautiful quality video. But back in the day, I had like massive soft boxes that I used to take to London to film in like
Yeah,
different clients and things. It was like a completely different experience. But I think like because I actually started on YouTube in 2007. So there was a collaboration channel that was all about LGBT, and I was part of that when YouTube really had no content on at all. And then beauty started properly kicking off around 2012, and that's when I was really enjoying it. It was the reason why I loved doing it was it you could bypass gatekeepers in the industry, and I was constantly being told my image was too strong because I
yeah,
looked like the girl version of me all the
yeah.
time, and it was a very different experience. But 10 years ago, I think it became more the talent agencies got more involved in it, and to be an influencer was very different to what I had ambitions to be. I wanted to be a leader in the industry I wanted to work
Yeah.
in, and I felt like it became almost like oversaturated, and people that weren't actually artists or makeup people were being pushed to the front.
It's kind of
And
like
I
that
was just
now,
like,
though, as well. Like,
it's very much like that
yeah,
now. And I think that it's even when I've hosted events with TikTok people and I've got to know what their ambitions are, it's surprising actually to find out that they don't even want to work in makeup in the
yeah,
long term, but it's their route.
to
And I'm like, I
stardom
wanted to
or
do the makeup.
yeah. Because do you think most people are doing it now because they kind of want the PR, they want the collabs, or do you think they're doing it now because obviously when you started there was like a real interest, there was a real skill and
Mhm.
credibility, right, that you would need to do that. How do you feel that is now? Do you what do you think people that are like growing makeup artists or even like beauty influencers, do you think they still have the same kind of like passion as you maybe did in it? Do you think they still have the same
No,
good
not at
intentions?
all. I think it's totally different. If you're using a website that tells you congratulations when you get subscribers, it's about getting
Mm,
subscribers and not doing an art form.
yeah,
There wasn't that when I was on there, so that I never was prompted to do audience building and
yeah,
like calling my subscribers. I was told by a management company about 10 years ago to call my subscribers the mermaids and things and build like a kind of like cult marketing strategy within what I was doing. And I was like, absolutely not.
yeah.
I just want to do my job really well, and I want to be able to be creative and constantly change. And I think that people just are told so often these days that you have to have a social media platform to do
Mm,
well, and you do. It's a useful tool, but what you actually do is what's going to get you
yeah,
there. It's not the social media. There are people on social media that have only become successful because they've formulaically done one type of content,
yeah.
and it's not what they
I
want
see
to
that. I
do.
see that everywhere now. I mean, you go to someone's page and they you sometimes use the same sound, the exact same kind of like quote reference, and they've done it like 50 times now. So yeah, it's very
Mm.
interesting. But it's also yeah, it's and one thing I kind of wanted to go back to as well, since we're like keeping it frank today as well, was like you spoke about gatekeepers as well. And I know we've kind of spoke about this previously, but if you would mind, like if you're okay with talking about it, what was that experience like with the gatekeepers, and especially the story that you kind of told me with like
Mm.
some one of them, I think was one of the biggest agencies in LA. And how they were kind of making you keep you as a kind of like as a boy to not really compete with some of the major female artists, which I thought was like so crazy when you told me.
Yeah, I had a really rough experience because in 2013 and 2014, I was involved in a reality show called the New Generation
Yeah.
Competition, which was made by Simon Cowell.
Mhm.
And it was basically America's Got Talent set out every single month for a year in basically 12 different types of digital talent. So you'd have to win your talent and then be chosen as the winner of the whole
Yeah.
competition. And they brought in judges, and Pixie Woo were amazing. They were the big beauty people in the UK at the
Mhm.
time, and Gleam. So it was run by YouTube Originals, Gleam the agency with
Yeah.
Pixie Woo, Simon Cowell,
Gleam
and
is
then
like one of
Simon Cowell's
the main
company.
agencies, especially for the influencers and the whole that whole YouTube app, isn't it?
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And I won the competition for makeup, which I
Congrats.
won because they chose me as the winner. Thank you.
Yeah.
And then I found out very, very, very like not even when the competition was over. This was like maybe 4 weeks before the last category was even
Yeah.
announced. That I'd won the whole entire reality show. So in my mind, I was like naive, and I just thought this was going to be some massive break. I was going to go on This Morning and
Yeah.
talk about it. I was going to be signed by the same team, have the same PR, and basically everything that should have happened did not take place, and they
Mm.
paid me off before the competition was actually over. There was no announcement, there was no interview, and all my press that existed before the
Mhm.
show was stopped, including I had a weekly gig in Now magazine, which was
Yeah. Yeah.
amazing. It was unheard of for an LGBT person to have that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I went to meet all the agencies here and in America, and they both wanted me to look like a boy. they said, would you ever do more the Justin Bieber look instead of what I wanted to do, which was like
Yeah.
Grace Jones and Prince and Bowie.
More artistic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and two people that actually inspired me. Like I love Justin Bieber's pop songs, but
Mm,
that's not where I get my visual inspirations
yeah.
from. And it was just like it was very, it was a missed opportunity, I think, for them because I was not going to stop.
Mm,
So whether they wanted to work with me or not, it didn't impact what I was going to do in my career.
mm,
It would just show that they didn't get what the tone was going to be because the year after was when Caitlyn Jenner came out, this
yeah.
discussion around pronouns,
Yeah.
and they just missed a trick.
Was that
So
the year
it's
after?
yeah.
That wow.
So it's just like people don't if they don't have an example of something working, they find it very difficult to invest money and
Mm,
time into it, and I think that
mm,
was what the gatekeeping for me
mm,
was.
mm,
But in doing so, and I appreciate your compliment at the beginning, is to do different things in this industry has been because I've been having to pivot
mhm.
every time I meet a
Yeah.
hurdle. I'm not going to stop my job. I've still got to pay my bills
Yeah.
and I still have things I want to do,
Yeah.
but I've had to find a different route in. So when I
Mhm.
went to go, and I thought it was going to be so easy for me to go into the mainstream because I've got
Yeah.
confidence and I'm a personality. But when that didn't happen, I said, well, I'm going to go in the back end then. I'm going to start to learn to make makeup, do a
Mm,
biochemistry master's, and figure it out from that direction.
yeah. No.
So it was like I've had to kind of like figure out ways
Yeah.
to do it, but
Yeah.
then I'm just acquiring new skills along the journey. So
Yeah.
it's just, I guess, what I've now learned is that I have been one of the first examples of people like me to do
Mm,
what I've done, and hopefully that inspires another generation because there's no
what it?
reason or rhyme why there shouldn't be more LGBT people in top roles.
Yeah.
And if I've made a lot of money doing this and I've sold a lot of products, then I am the example that it works. So hopefully that has opened the door for another person. But
And,
it's still there's a big trick that they do. These powerful people, they trick you into thinking there's only room for one type, one of you
mm,
of that type.
mm,
And there's only one spot for the trans person to fight against the other trans person. And that's the thing that I want to establish is a
yeah.
lie. And we work so much better in collaboration,
For sure. We'll
sharing
talk
who
about
we
why collaboration is so important too.
yeah.
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 And one thing I was going to say as well was like, why do you think it is such a like a is do you think it's a marketing ploy? Why do you think? I mean, I'm going to get into like DI initiatives in a second, but like,
Mm.
why do you think there's not that kind of like follow through? Do you think that? Do you know what I mean?
I think that there's been loads of like even if I go behind the scenes and tell you some real tea, in 2015
Do it, do it, do it.
when Google bought YouTube, they flagged the word trans as controversial.
Mm,
So if you were identified by the algorithm as trans, it wouldn't place you in the same sectors as beauty.
yeah,
So they took out when they made the algorithm, I literally sat on the phone with them and had conversations about this multiple times when I was
mm,
consulting with Google.
mm,
I said to them, if you do not factor in when you're building these tech programs that there are trans people in all categories,
yeah,
you're going to put trans in only the news debate category. And that's when we started to see only the representation of trans people in a debate on morning television.
mm,
That's when we saw a shift
mhm,
in it. And it wasn't there
mm,
before because they didn't build these tech
yeah,
programs
yeah,
with that
yeah,
system. And it's been very frustrating for me because I've seen it so often with my community that I came up with. So many talented people are being boxed by these tech systems.
In
And it's
terms
it's
of like
really
what to say, like how to act and stuff like that.
well, you won't get if you look for something on TikTok now,
Hmm.
you won't see a variety of different types of people doing that one
Yeah,
thing. You will see the most popular thing that that tech thinks you're going to
yeah,
want to see.
yeah,
But if they don't factor in people of color or different religious depictions or older people doing beauty, and it's only that sort of girl next
yeah.
door, then you're actually going to lose the representation. So
Oh,
it's
thanks for
all
the
came
heart,
from
girl.
that.
Yeah, it's a really good point. And because I kind of feel as well. I mean, you were quite young as well when you first started. Obviously, I remember you telling me you got scouted first by Alexander McQueen, so you kind of like started that first way into a model, and obviously then you kind of like then got into other areas of the industry.
Mhm.
Um,
2005.
2005 is yeah, it's a crazy time. But what was life back then, and what gave you that confidence? Because it wasn't the same way it is now, where where you can kind of like maybe learn a bit more information. Like really back then, and even like somewhat till now, like, you are very much yourself, and especially in a quite clicky industry that beauty can be, and especially all the other facets you've gone into. Where do you think your confidence has come from to
Well,
to tell Google like X Y Z, because they could have like. really, finished your page and whatever. But you continued on. So where
Oh,
did you
I've
get?
done more than that. I've told the president of Estee Lauder that they need to train their staff not to be transphobic when they're hiring. Because I was told when because they would no one would employ me in retail. They said my image was too strong,
Yeah.
and I told them I said this isn't good enough because your clients are now the customers now changed, so you're
Mm,
missing out on on the money.
yeah.
But I grew up in a very, very, very kind of like strict churchy
Mhm.
family, and I needed to break free. So I wasn't necessarily confident, is that I had to find some way of expressing myself. And I've read this with so many people, like why I mentioned Grace Jones as one of my inspirations. She grew up in a very religious family and then broke free. And I think
Mhm.
it's more that
Mm,
than it is confidence, because I still doubt myself sometimes. I still think like, oh, I'm not gonna, it's not really doubt as much because I'm going to achieve what I set my
yeah.
mind to. But I think sometimes if I actually tell all of the truth, it's going to prevent me from getting the work I want to
Mm,
do. And I'm very hesitant sometimes of crossing that line between telling the truth about situations that have been
yeah.
terrible behind the scenes, which I've been privy to a few times,
Yeah.
and actually like trying to fight for the
What
best
you're.
thing, like because I
Yeah.
want to make changes, but until you've got that big enough voice to make those changes, you can't. I mean, like
It's
working with the
true.
British Beauty Council on that census
Yeah.
last year was I don't think I would, if I'd have called out certain transphobic things that I've experienced, I don't know if they would have let me work with them on the census
You
that then went to
think
Parliament.
so?
Well, people just get a they get a wrong idea of someone that's fighting for a cause. Sometimes you get labelled as
Well, I
difficult
understand.
instead of
Yeah.
passionate.
Yeah. Being difficult rather than. Yeah. I know what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
But I'm okay. I'm happy to stick up for things if they're right, and I think as long as you say things in a professional way, you're entitled to. And I have made so many phenomenal changes without it being the forefront of what I post on social media, which I'm really proud of. Like the things that I've been so much happy about is when I've worked with Pooge and I hosted 10 ateliers in Paris and
Yeah.
Barcelona. Told them that let's bring more examples of LGBT people into Jean Paul Gaultier's
Mm,
adverts because he's always been so appreciative and representative on the runway.
yeah.
Why not in the adverts? And
Yeah.
we've seen so much amazing stuff change from that
Yeah.
brand. My God. So it's like I've liked the things that I've done in that way that have kind of like that aren't attributed to
Mm,
me. But when I see all my friends get booked for the Jean Paul Gaultier Scandal perfume campaign,
mm,
I'm like, yes, we did it, we did it. And I didn't have to tell them off. I just showed them how to
yeah.
make more money.
So it's a lot of work behind the scenes, and then still just keeping a fine line of like kind of what you're kind of saying at the time. But it's the main thing is that it's still getting the job done, which is great. Obviously, the changes are being made, the conversations are being heard, and obviously places like organisations like the British Beauty Council are amazing to have because I think they really understand, the issues that sometimes solo founders can have, the issues going on in the beauty industry.
Right.
Um, yeah, so yeah, it's really really great. Good.
And
Uh,
getting people like linking together as collaboration
yeah,
and making friends with other beauty leaders. Like when we started to talk and we were talking about like all our different journeys making products and things, and
yeah,
it's like it's good to share that because like when you actually like speak to someone that's doing the same
yeah,
thing and you're not trying to compete for the
yeah,
same thing because we can work together, it's
100%.
like, well, this is brilliant. We can just start talking about this openly, and
Yeah.
it's not something like that's that I just can't understand why people fall for it every single time. And I see so many people that are similar to me or categorized in the same way I am that just don't trust working with each other because they're so used to
Mhm.
being that one different character in a lineup that they think that if they do share their contacts, if they do share the information about increasing our
Yeah.
equity, that they're going to lose out because we need our money to be paid
It's so
still. And
crazy.
it's
I
just
don't know where that kind of comes from, that element of like, for example, it could be one brand, it could be like one kind of thing. And I think it's the same kind of thing. It transfers to other way, perhaps in the music industry, in
right.
golf, in basketball and stuff like that. And it's true, there doesn't need to be. I mean, yeah, I think as long as we like people can kind of like collaborate because there's so much. I mean, when we kind of spoke as well, I think there was so much similarities in our story,
Mhm.
and it's so helpful to know that other people's kind of like gone through it and they've navigated it kind of okay, and it's quite nice to have allies in the industry, I think as well.
I agree,
Yeah.
but I think we need to see more people in leadership roles because even when you're talking to publications that are LGBT
Hmm.
focused, I remember a classic example was I worked on the Jacka Black line, which is a L'Oreal Innovations line, and Jessica is the founder. It's her baby and her
Yeah.
brand. But the products that we manufactured were mine, and I was using them years before she had a brand. And it's like
But these were
the
your
gay
products
public.
before, your formulas before.
They were my designs. I was
Yeah.
using them in my YouTube tutorials, and she was using my YouTube tutorials to set up a business to help trans people before she had the makeup
Yeah.
line. So when I went into that partnership and we designed those products and they sold so many and did so well, the gay publications credited her and not me as the designer when it should have been that they're representing me and that we
Yeah,
are the she's not even
yeah.
LGBT. So it's like if you want to give the spotlight on someone, maybe mention the trans person that made those products to cover their own
For
beard,
sure.
not
I
the
mean,
cisgender woman that built a company around it.
but you,
Because it's not. Do you get
yeah,
what I'm
yeah.
saying? It's like it's so
But you,
bizarre.
but you would think that that element would be a lot more stronger for the brand, like having obviously you back perhaps with a real problem solution element. You know,
Oh yeah.
you've gone from the concerns. Even from PR point of view, it's like it's crazy. Why didn't they? But they, do you think they just wanted more the attention on?
I this is a question for the LGBT media because I've actually included it into my spotlight on my Instagram profile.
Mhm.
But when we went to Vogue, when we went to Harper's Bazaar, ID, the straight publications or the fashion publications were really excited to be given permission to write about a trans
Yeah,
story. They loved it, and that's why they did so much amazing press because they're so nervous about the backlash if they make a
the
misstep
media
that they don't
companies.
cover it.
Yeah,
So when I was there in person talking to them and saying, look, I'm this person, I'm called Joseph, I'm still a trans person,
yeah,
they felt comfortable that I'd given them permission to make the mistake with me. I
mm,
could do that.
yeah,
And they were then happy to spotlight it because they were like, wow, we can do this and we're not going to be fearful of the
mm,
backlash. But what I didn't understand is why the LGBT side of things don't do it properly. And there seems to be this fake activism that goes on even when you look at these award shows, they do like awards with attitudes and things now. And I'm like, do we know any of these people? Are these people
yeah,
like just pop stars you're trying to bring in to advertise the
yeah,
event? Or are they actually the trans people in this country
yeah,
doing amazing things
yeah,
now?
yeah.
And I'm like, this is so weird to me. And it's like it's a conversation that I would love to chat with more founders and things because I think in the beauty industry we've kind of got we understand
Hmm.
the gist of it, especially around like products for black skin or
Hmm.
black hair.
Yeah.
We've done amazing things
Hmm.
to comparing to 15 years ago and not having any deeper tones into like
Yeah.
stores that you go to or to have a separate space
Yeah.
outside of beauty. It's
Yeah.
like things like that. We've made massive progress, so I think we need to do the same with the LGBT side as well,
Yeah.
and not just book everyone for
Yeah.
Pride, but the entire year.
It's true, and I think it's the same thing across the industry. I think there's kind of like awareness of issues, but I feel like for me, to be if I'm being completely honest, I feel like there's still it still feels like 50-50 marketing, 50-50 like we need to kind of like do this kind of thing. So it's like we're kind of hearing you. I kind of want to put this out to sell a few products, but I'm not 100% in there yet. So there is this kind of like 50-50 like putting your foot in kind of thing. But yeah, hopefully
Yes.
with more conversations going on, I think yeah things will improve. Yeah.
This feels so nice. It doesn't feel like it's all strippy and
I
there's
thought I
like.
thought it was eventually going to get quite hard and be quite like hard to talk, but I think because we also activated it with like moisturizing ingredients, it's all good.
Yes.
But let me get on with some skin questions, Joe.
Okay. Okay.
So, do you think having a physical, like problem skin, was a barrier back then from when you first started? Obviously, you've never had real problem skin, but for example, if
Oh
someone
no, I
did,
did. I did.
oh, did
I had
you?
terrible. Yeah, I had really, really terrible acne.
Yeah,
And even in they were my most popular content I ever did. The acne videos. I probably about 12 million views on just the acne stuff. Um, it became actually an asset because people like
yeah,
clickbait. And it was when you remember when Dr. Pimple Popper came out
yes,
and all those viral videos
yeah,
started and it became like this trending thing to see acne on
yeah,
social
yeah,
media. You could maneuver around that quite cleverly if
yeah,
you were doing content around it.
yeah,
So I think at the time it was really
yeah,
useful. And even today, I think the way like TikTok uses they kind of like they allow people to sort of bait their differences as a
mm,
way to spread
yeah,
things out, which I think if you're doing it to bring awareness or you're trying to introduce an amazing
yeah,
product, it's great.
yeah,
But there was never any representation of real textured skin in
yeah,
adverts, and that's changed. And I love that. I love seeing Bioma their adverts, or I love seeing all the different kind of like new modern
yeah.
brands, like that wonderful. Is it called Vindu? What's no, Ruby Hammer's daughter's part of it? It's like
Indu,
a team
Indu,
skin.
Indu. Yeah,
I
yeah, that's really great.
fab, fab. I love things like that, and I think it's so good to be realistic with skin. Like,
Yeah,
and it's I've like for a long while, I think we've been given so much bad advice around skin, and
mhm,
it's to sell the
yeah,
products. And I want people to just be transparent about what the
Yeah,
things do, because it's like so many people buy these products, and I'd love to hear your opinion about like how like young girls,
yeah.
not even teens, are using stripping skincare and things, and it's like, what the hell are we doing?
It's crazy. I mean, I was actually involved with like the ITV News done this like massive like news article about it at the time because there was this thing called Sephora Kids.
Yes,
So people of the age, I think, did you hear about it? So yeah, those
yes.
that are at the ages I think of like 8 to like 14 years old, they were going to Sephora. They literally obliterated all the samples and stuff like that. It was like a mess, and they kind of like left. But they were all using basically buying like retinol products and stuff like that. And I think it was great. I think it was quite interesting how it happened at the time because the media started looking at the brands perhaps and how they could be attracting or misleading some young people with the products. So, for example, I'm not going to mention any brands, but certain brands
Mm,
like more colourful packaging and stuff like that, where it kind of feels that it's actually more for the younger generation. So those were the kind of conversations that were happening. But no one of the age of 12 should ever be using retinol. I mean, it's not needed at all. That's the point where your skin's like the most healthiest.
mm.
Um, so yes, for me it's crazy, but I think it's more of a thing where it's just I think it's just because of social media and like beauty trends as well, where people are kind of like looking at I think trying to give longevity to their skin and stuff like that. But I think there's a time and place for it, and 14 years old certainly isn't the time or place. But that's why I'm so passionate as well with like, the whole with helping with teens as well. So obviously we have the project in schools that helps to like tackle
Yes.
like body image concerns and things like that. But one of the things that we do as well is de-influence misleading skincare trends, and it's always really interesting when I go there and I talk about like what are they kind of like doing and using and stuff like that. I'm sometimes like so much like shocked by it, but it's really great. I think by me being there as someone that's kind of been through it, they kind of realize straight away, oh, actually, we don't need to be using that. We don't need to be doing like DIY lemon scrubs on our face anymore and things like that. So yeah, it's really great that I've been able to also I think express myself in this way as well through the brands, obviously helping with the physical and yeah emotional aspects of having a skin condition, which is really great.
If you need me for anything to do with that school
Oh,
project, let me know because I'd love to do something
a
like that.
hundred percent. Yeah, I'll be calling you.
Do you know what?
um,
One of my worst ones that I used to get taught when I was younger, the old acting tricks from back in the day, they used to recommend perfume on spots
because of the alcohol.
because of the alcohol.
It's one of the worst things. But the thing is
Mm.
as well, like, but did it ever work for you? Did it work for you?
I never, no, I knew better than
Yeah,
to do
yeah.
that.
Because I was gonna say, I think also as well, like, there's sometimes people that have, that don't ever have any like skin conditions and stuff like that, and sometimes when they get the odd spot, I still don't think perfume is the best remedy for it. But I think this is like the folklore that is kind of okay. But I think the real issue comes to when people have like reoccurring skin issues, and that's when it can really cause problem skin.
Mhm.
In no way am I advocating to use like perfume or toothpaste, but I
No.
think that's why there's a bit of like disparity between it. I think, which is interesting.
And masking tape as well. There was masking tape that no, the duct tape, silver duct
Yeah,
tape. That was one. And go to bed in silver duct tape. No, actually does do something. It flat because you can get those sleeping
I've
silicone
seen.
masks
Have you
that
ever used those
I
ones?
have, but I'm lucky because I don't have much lines.
So you're
I've
using it
because I've
mainly
been
for like lines, fine lines, and stuff like that.
yeah,
Yeah, prevention.
you can relax the line it with a tape. And Pacifica, who I've worked with in the past, do silicone masks that are so good,
I've
and
seen
they're
them.
great
Yeah,
for under eyes when you're doing the makeup because you
yeah.
can peel them off and reuse them. So I like things like that. But yeah, I love all these funny old tricks. Like, I still love the oats in the sock.
Oh, is that for like if you have like eczema or stuff like that? You
Yeah,
can put it into the bath and stuff. Yeah,
yes, it just softens you down. You wake up and you come out like a baby. It's so good.
yeah. I should try that. It sounds nice. Um, what I was going to say, this might be a good segue to the other question was like, what's the most craziest trend that you've seen across the years? Across the years.
um, I think the worst one was when Kylie Jenner got
I
her lips done
was
and
thinking the
everyone
lips
was
one as well because that was damaging as well. Do you remember that?
oh yeah, there were people that really injured themselves sucking into some glass
Yeah.
container or something. I've seen them all. I remember there was the cinnamon challenge, which I found really easy to do because I'm a spice head, so I was just gobbling away all the cinnamon every
What
time
was
I
it?
would
You
get
had to
there.
swallow. You had to swallow the cinnamon.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's because that lady called Glozell, she's like an old school
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
superstar creator.
Yeah.
She was coughing clouds of like Puff the
I
Magic
remember that.
Dragon of cinnamon,
Point.
so it was so
Was
silly.
that was like when Vine was a thing? Did you
Yes.
use?
Oh,
Was you on Vine?
No,
Oh.
no, no, no. I duck and dive out of social media. I do the ones that I want to do. I did MySpace before it got commercial,
Hmm.
and then I stopped. I deleted an account with like millions of people on MySpace
Mm.
back in years gone by. I hated Tumblr. I thought Tumblr gave people access who weren't creative to mask themselves as creative, and I thought it
Mm.
was strange. And I never Facebook started to in the north of England, because I think people are more communal than the south, people were building big audiences on
Yeah.
Facebook around 2011, 12, and 13.
Yeah.
And it wasn't southern, it was happening in the north. And I just kept thinking to
Interesting.
myself, like, what kind of content would fit for me to do if I was going to be using that? And I just couldn't. It was I couldn't fit culturally into that with what I wanted to express myself as.
Yeah.
But then YouTube was amazing when it started, and it was so community orientated, and you could really get in where you weren't able to get in before.
Yeah.
I did love that, but I was also asked to be in the TikTok conversion campaign from
Yeah.
Musically, and I
I
felt that they
remember
just didn't
Musically. Was
understand
that when
it.
you like was like singing to the app and stuff like that? Yeah.
Well, that's what TikTok is, that
Mm.
TikTok became that from that app. So they did a conversion campaign to launch it as TikTok, and
Hmm.
I was booked to be part of it. And they wanted me to lip sync, and I thought they were saying to me they thought I was a drag queen, and I didn't understand that the kind of culture of the app was people were lip syncing whilst
Oh, the
doing
time.
makeup. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
so I was like, well, I'm not going to do that unless you're paying me a lot more because I can't do anything to do with lip
Yeah. Yeah.
syncing. So I'm like, I'm not going to embarrass myself. But I I think that I have to find a way. I'm going to express myself,
Yeah.
whatever. I just need to be. I wait for the right time to do it because sometimes I don't think the apps are the best or these platforms are the best. Like, I don't understand TikTok's live stream function. That scares me, and the people that are on it scare me.
Why? Just because that they're so like savvy, like they're just
They're
so.
money laundering. I think they're money laundering. They're using the gift system to money launder. So I'm like, this is not for me.
Wow.
And that's one thing I think that bleeds into not money laundering, but these there's a transactional quality about these apps, and I think people are looking for a storyline, and they try and if you're perceived as being a big creator
Yeah.
sometimes, and if people target you to bounce off of,
Yeah.
either with a positive thing or a
Yeah.
negative thing, and
Yeah.
I think it's so salacious. I'm just too scared of doing things like that. I
Mm.
can't.
No, it's interesting. It's a good point. I think that that could definitely go a lot deeper on that whole element of it. But I think we'll leave that. Won't touch too much of it there. But I was gonna say over the years, what has been your favorite platform? Has it been YouTube? Would you say that's been the best like for like building your community? Is that the best like creative outlet that you would say you've had?
Old school YouTube was amazing.
Yeah.
It when they first made it widescreen, and it was paid properly, and you could be creative and not sorted into a
Yeah.
playlist. When they introduced the playlist, it went wrong
Mm. What's the pain?
because it was like
What is the
it
pain?
was.
Is that like a is that when they add videos together like all different same category or something?
So they changed everything
Mm.
into it's a big convoluted spider web of things that were going on at the same time. But basically, that when your video is finished, they wanted to recommend a video to keep you seeing the
Got
adverts.
you. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But they needed a way to sort out who would be interested, and they've introduced it across everything. So even if you click on my photos on
Yeah.
Threads, because I like Threads better than Twitter now,
Hmm.
they only put me in a category of trans people, not in the beauty.
Mm. Why?
And it's like I don't even post topically about being trans or
Yeah.
anything to do with it. So it's like
But
there's
also,
things like that that
you should also be able to decide like where you kind of want to go and your main. Well, would you say your main premise is beauty anyway? Isn't it? It's all rounded into different
well,
facets.
I'm I keep thinking like, thank God I was able to be successful before this era because I couldn't
Because
have done it.
you
I
had the credibility to now say X, Y, Z, for example. Yeah.
but they wouldn't have been able to find me
Mm.
if I was doing if I was doing content today.
Starting
I'd have
fresh.
to do the same. It wouldn't be the same. I'd have to do what Dylan Mulvaney's doing.
Okay. What is he doing? What's he
So
doing?
she's a trans woman that documents her
Yeah.
transition or as like a formulaic thing every day, and she was trying to poke people that were conservative whilst doing it.
Yeah.
She couldn't just come out and do her performative stuff like she's a
Mhm.
theatrical singer and God knows
Yeah.
what. But she because people were saying you're not a girl, you're a trans girl, whatever, they were being transphobic to her. She used that energy to bounce off of. So it doesn't, you don't have
Oh,
the
the
space to do
comments and
your
stuff like that she
tone.
kind of used to make more
Oh, all
content
over the
out of
news
it.
in America.
Yeah.
She was constantly being talked about on the news in the US. So it was giving her a publicity campaign
Hmm.
that she then spun into a career, which is great.
Mm.
But I couldn't have done that.
Mm.
I could not have, I don't have a need to be seen. I have a need to be
Because
successful.
that's the one thing now. I feel like, especially we kind of spoke about like having some authenticity with your creativity and putting some thought into your content. But it is true now. I feel like with a lot of the videos on TikTok, and it might be the bit more of the younger generation, but it's like it's more of a thing where it very much transactional. It's kind of like just putting this content out there to build the followers and stuff like that.
Mm.
Um, but is it something that's going to be classic that people kind of go back to? For example, your videos maybe because it's rooted in like real experience and you've kind of like lived it and breathed it and you have the credibility for it. But now you wonder, in a few years' time, are those videos still going to be as relevant and viral as they are? They're not, because it's like every few days, like you have to keep pushing content out. It's like it's such a you know unrealistic, and it also can dilute your creativity in a way, I think, as well, sometimes, depending on it. I don't know. I'm not really on
I agree,
yeah,
and but I was doing tutorials. I was teaching people how to do things. I wasn't doing makeup as a
yeah,
performance. And now, because they're short form media,
yeah,
you can't teach someone something in 15 seconds. You've got to do an entertaining makeup
yeah.
tutorial. So it's like I could not have done it. I could not
Hmm.
have done it in this generation because I don't have that. I have to do things what I want to do. I can't do things that are just there
Popular or
like
just like
because they're
trendy.
popular to
Yeah.
do them. I don't behave like that, and I constantly want to build upon my last project. So I'm not going to just deviate and do something because it's trending.
Yeah. And I was gonna say, do you think so? If you're starting from scratch now, you may not have been
Never.
as
No, I wouldn't have
hard at
none
that
of it.
point.
None of it would have happened. I would never have been able to do it. It would never have. And I'm so grateful. I cannot tell you that I got the timing right.
Mm.
And all my friends, let me tell you the real tea. Even my friends did not like it when I was taking sponsorships. And I said,
What?
"What the hell are you talking about? In 10 years' time, when we're old and hideous and we can't do
Yeah.
this anymore, you're going to say, I wish I took that sponsorship."
Oh, because back in the day, they were well. This is going to go to my next question in a second about like PR, like gifting and stuff like that, and that
Oh,
kind of world. But especially back then, and so before they weren't really there. It was more gifting, wasn't it? It was like there was never really like or collaborations. It was
oh
never
my
giving
God!
someone
It started off.
hundred thousand pounds for a post and stuff like
It
that.
started off totally different. There was a shame about being on the internet. So if you were with a modeling agency when I started, you couldn't go online. They didn't want you to post anything. And then when the brand started to sort of dip their toe into social media around 2012, and they started to give out free you because back in the day to get free samples you had to be a journalist with a publication, and they wanted the publication because that would be lead generating,
Yeah, for
and
them to
that's
potentially
that.
write about it.
Right,
Yeah.
and that's why they gatekeeped becoming a makeup artist, and that's why you
Mm.
had to be an assistant to a makeup artist to get into the industry
Oh,
because
yeah, it's
they
very
didn't.
clicky back then. Yeah, for
Yes,
sure. Yeah, yeah.
yes, it was very clicky, and they had a sort of snobbery around the beauty and fashion world that
Oh, yeah, it's
wouldn't
very
allow different
different to
people
now.
in.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Now it's all about like being accepting, and but back then, like even when someone had bad skin, like you weren't being booked for a job if you had bad skin. Would you say that? Like, would you agree with
Absolutely
that?
not.
Yeah,
No, if you were different in any way, you weren't going to be booked unless you were a massively represented person or a one-off superstar. Like I
yeah.
remember when, but here's an example. The amazing model Andrea Pejik, who was a trans model that came up my era, was superstar,
Mhm.
massive, like biggest thing in the world. She looks so similar to that young trans model that's ever that Alex Consani,
Okay.
but they do not book Andrea anywhere. She's not listed in any of these role model lists, and it's like do we throw away our creatives if we don't have control of our own
Mm,
business?
well,
And
yeah,
it's like
100%. That's the thing. I think probably that's been one thing that's been quite helpful for you too as well, because you always had your own thing going on. You've never just allowed anyone to
yes,
dictate. And I think that's the same thing with me having a brand. It's like it gives you some more stability. I think with that as well in terms of what you can kind of like say we can get across. You've got a bit more allies and stuff. So yeah, I think it can be definitely a positive as well. I think.
it's so important to be aware of what can you can lose, and
Mm,
you can't put your destiny in the hands of an agency.
Mm,
You have to have some autonomy. You have to run your own thing, like it's you're
yeah,
building a house. And do you want the house to fall down?
yeah.
Are you going to trust someone else to do it? No, you have to have aware of your
Mm,
finances. You do not say no to a working
yeah.
opportunity. And I'm sorry, they didn't. My friends did not get it, and they used to say if you accepted sponsorships, you were lying, and therefore you weren't a trustable source.
Mm,
Well, all the sponsorships I've ever had, I've reached out to
mm.
them.
Yeah, I mean, you've always been quite careful with who you select. You don't do anything if it doesn't really align with you.
Absolutely.
Whereas now, perhaps, which we're going to kind of go into, we'll kind of discuss. I think is there that same kind of level of like authenticity? So obviously back then it was working with collaboration. Sometimes certain creators, bigger creators, would have sometimes direct relationships with the companies, and they would get PR boxes. But with now, with how the industry is, where you have some really really big beauty skincare brands. I won't say the names, but I think you roughly know who anyway. That will just like roughly pay like some of these people like £100,000 or like £50,000 to talk about the product, or even I also kind of feel like even dermatologists are kind of like getting caught up in that now as well, because it's like I feel like sometimes their credibility is somewhat being looked at. But yeah, how do you see the whole PR and gifting world, or based on authenticity from then till now?
I think it's a
Honestly,
different. It's become different because our economy's crap. It used to be a bit better. It still wasn't good,
corrupt.
but it was better.
Yeah.
Yes, the economy's gone wrong. So people appreciate anyone hustling now. I think there's an
Mm,
admiration for anyone making money in some
mm,
way. It's the stigma's gone because people respect that we all need to pay for things
I
and there's
agree.
less
Yeah.
money in the pot.
Yeah.
So I think that people encourage you to. I don't think they
Hmm.
care if you people want familiarity, it seems, at the moment, and they want a constant source of entertainment from someone. So I don't describe the new social media as social media. I think it's content media, and people
Okay.
subscribe into it almost like they need a source of content that's streaming
Mm,
constantly.
mm,
And once they have that familiarity and that bond with that
yeah.
creator, if they love what they're doing and support them, they will go along with whatever sponsorship they do,
Mm,
and they don't care if it's a fake thing where they're putting fake eyelashes
yeah.
on for a mascara campaign on
Yeah.
TikTok. They don't care as much because they want that content stream to continue.
Yeah.
So I think there's a mix between it, and it's like building your house on sand, because it's
Mm,
like you have to be, if you're going to do anything in this industry and you're going to end up launching a brand, you've got to have trust there to begin with.
yeah.
So it's like, what are you doing? Are you doing a performative thing? Are you providing people with
Hmm.
content, or are you building a career in the beauty industry?
Yeah.
Because that's two very different approaches. Like,
Mm.
I've been building a career in the beauty industry, I've not been providing content.
But it's like the other way around now, isn't
Yeah.
it? Where people are making more content. It's more, yeah. It's not really about the whole longevity of the advice that you're giving, because so much of these advice and trends change. A few months ago, did you hear about the what was it called, the cow fat? What was it
Oh,
called? The
yes.
what was it
The
called? The
fallow, whatever it's tallow,
Yeah,
tallow.
did that,
Oh,
for example, that was everyone was jumping on that. You had even dermatologists talking about it, and now everyone's flipped, and now everyone's saying, it's not good, it's pore clogging and stuff like that. But I think on the question of like, what do you think about? Because obviously, I feel like dermatologists back in the day, they would ultimately be kind of paid for their profession, and then impartially kind of like given any advice on the kind of like question of like authenticity and more like brand collaborations and stuff like that. Do you think we can trust like online social media dermatologists?
I
Are you
think
familiar with much of the videos? Like, do you see much of those
I
like
do.
social?
I do. I think that I can tell what's going on now because I know the people in the
Mm,
industry. I know who's doing what and what's happening. I know
mm.
if it's marketing, and I know if it's authentic, organic interest in the products or whatever.
Based
So
on what
I
they're
can.
saying.
I don't think that there are any skincare experts out there. If you look
Mm,
at brands like John Calathon and you look at brands like
mm,
Vaseline,
mm.
they are in polar opposition in terms of what they stand for. One says that mineral oils are bad, and one says mineral oils are
Yeah.
good. And yet they both treat skin fantastically.
Mm,
So you have to make the decision for you. And I
mm.
always think like the best thing, the thing I love about your brand is you allow people to build a toolkit for what they need and
Yeah.
customize things to what they
Yeah.
need, because our skin is ever changing. Like,
Yeah.
it's to give someone a diagnosis when it's not, when it's like routine changeable things.
Hmm.
That's impossible. You can't do that because you need to know what that skin's going through that
Yeah,
day, what that person's eating,
yeah,
what their hormones are like,
yeah,
all this kind of stuff. So it's like it's very. I don't like the idea that people believe in
yeah,
it. I think that we just, if you want to collect fabulous packaging and gorgeous smelling products, and you feel luxurious using the Estee Lauder cream
yeah.
or whatever, that's fabulous. That's like a collection.
Mm,
But don't think that the claims are real.
yeah.
You have to find out what your skin needs on that day, and then treat it on that day for that
And
problem.
and that's the tough part because most people don't really want to do the work. They'd rather just be told,
Yeah.
somewhat. Sometimes, a fancy solution. Sometimes people don't want to think, what am I meant to use for my skin? So yeah, it's a good point to
But
make.
yours
I can't.
are so clever because they are adaptable to all different types of skins. Like if you just needed to regulate your sebum and get rid of that
Yeah,
bacteria on the skin, you can do it with your stuff, and it's amazing. You've done so well.
thank you so much. And I think we even spoke about previously, like sometimes like how they can kind of like be used with each other. So I think like last time I was saying that a lot of the time I kind of like add in like the sun drops facial serum like with the clearing face cream. So if you need a bit more moisture in your skin, if your skin's feeling almost like more dehydration, undernourished and stuff like that, it's a great way of like incorporating the product. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
I've been living for the face gel. I love the face
Oh,
gel.
oh, great, great. How do you use it?
So I use it as a topper. So whenever I'm actually like about to apply makeup, and
Yeah,
I'll do my creams first thing in the
yeah.
morning when I get up, and then before makeup I want to refresh, and it's so good because it doesn't take away from the makeup. It doesn't. It makes you feel like your face is relaxed into what
Yeah,
you're
it kind of like
doing, and I think it's
de-stresses your
really
skin, kind
good.
of gives a good, somewhat of a good base, some people say, yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
And I also want to ask as well, like you've obviously worked with some major brands as well. Some of the top, obviously, top all the top brands.
Mhm.
How would you
Apart
kind of
from
like
Unilever,
say again,
apart
sorry?
from Unilever, I've never worked with Unilever.
Oh, would you work with Unilever?
Yes,
Okay.
I want to do that. That's next.
Oh, amazing, good. I was going to say, how do you, yeah, how would you kind of see like Frank's Remedies comparing to some of those kind of like bigger mainstream brands, in terms of like maybe like the ethos, like kind of like how we've created our products. How do you kind of see us being different, or like just that even standing alone in that kind of like industry, that kind of world?
I think that you are making a major disruption because you're bringing like I genuinely thought
Hmm.
that because of all the stuff that was going on within the world at the moment and how expensive things can be,
Yeah.
that we were going to be looking at ways to make products that were changeable and
Hmm.
adaptable and weren't just like the finished packaged thing.
Yeah.
Like I thought we were going to see products like your
Hmm.
mask because they make more sense and they're not things that are being I think there's an educational piece that's got to go with things like
Yeah.
people do need to be taught how to use them,
Yeah.
but they are things that you can use on all, like if you have back knee or something you can apply it to your back. They're
Yeah.
customizable, they're adaptable and changeable things, and I think that's so
Thank you.
amazing. And I think sometimes like when, because I love working and learning about new brands because I just think like how is this game changing, how is it going to be moving forwards, because as you
Hmm.
know there are so many brands that come out of fruition because they've got a lot of money.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's about
Or
money,
yeah.
and it's not about quality products. It's not got a story there, and they
Yeah.
try and invent a story after, and it's like this is not going to be. This is not what this is about. Like, and I think that because your story is so authentic and you've
Thank
shown
you.
it, you've been able to evidence everything you've done.
Thank you.
People are going to fall in love with the
Yeah.
story, and I think it's interesting to see how. Like, I actually haven't got your sun drops up here, but I love those as well. Like, even calling them sun drops. Can I ask you about it? On the profile, you've put it's all tuned to hertz.
Oh,
What
yeah,
is
that's another
this?
thing. Yeah, so like sound frequency. Yeah,
Yes. Tell me.
so at the time when I was like creating the brand, obviously did a bit of traveling and stuff like that. One of the places I went to visit was the Havasupai tribe in they actually live in the Grand Canyon, just near like Arizona. And at the time there, I think that was the first time I actually learned about how like sound and music can like influence certain things. And at the time when I was
Mm.
there was like these three Native American people that were playing the flute
Hmm.
on top of the Grand Canyon, and someone was mentioning like everyone was like taking videos and stuff like that, and I was still obviously learning about the culture and things like that, and it was only then that I actually understand the reason why they were doing it and things like that. And when I looked into it further, there was this like Nobel Prize scientist that kind of looked at how how sound frequency can affect like liquid and water. It was really interesting. I don't know if you've ever seen it, where there was a study that was done where they basically said certain like positive and negative words to like water.
Yes,
Um,
I saw this.
have you seen it? Yeah. Then, for example, they
hmm
look at it under like a microscope and they can
hmm
kind of see the different particles, and that's like real
And the
science. Uh,
patterns.
yeah. And so for me, when I was like looking into making my own products, I thought that was a really interesting element that I kind of wanted to incorporate. Just make it, it's not probably having the same level of detail as like a Nobel Prize scientist, but it's actually just being aware that how sound frequency can impact us. But it's also a great way of like de-stressing the skin too. And
hmm
that could even be one of the secret ways the products work in de-stressing the skin. But I'd love to do some more like science-backed testing with that too to kind of give more evidence. But yeah, it's definitely part of the story about it and how it works.
It's amazing, and I love the little maps you've got on the packaging that show
Those are
where
some of the
things are
countries I've been to.
from.
Yeah, I had like a little scooter, so that was yeah, trying to emulate that.
They're fab. They're
Um,
fab.
cool. So we're gonna wash up off our mask in a second. I can't believe
Okay.
it's like 7:30. We've been like speaking for like an hour. I was thinking the flight was gonna be 15
No,
minutes,
it's
but I think it's great.
good.
I think it's great. We've had some really good conversations, and
If
we
you
kind of
want to, if you want to post the live to your profile after, I'll download it and then repost it to my
yeah. I'm gonna
platform.
break it. I'm probably gonna download it and probably break it down into like different like reels and stuff like that because
Cool.
I think there's been some really good conversations that we've
Good.
had. Cool. So I think I've got one last question. Um, what are your kind of thoughts on like some of the bigger companies stopping like DEI initiatives? So obviously we're both kind of quite big advocates for social impact. You obviously do a lot of work actually going into the companies and actually leading those initiatives. But what are your thoughts on those kind of like things stopping?
I mean, it's become another industry. It was being given funding, and that's
Yeah,
why we saw a rise in it. Um, what I have been enjoying seeing is that we have listened in the beauty industry to a lot of this stuff. We have made a lot of positive, amazing
yeah,
changes. I think that we didn't need money to do that. I think we just needed to have conversation to do that. And I think the conversations have been open and they've been brilliant, especially again with the British Beauty Council and all the work they
oh,
do
amazing.
there. We've had so much good work there and meeting other people. And I just still think that we need to have like a database that's accessible that lists each of our kind of like individual careers so that
Yeah,
when people are looking for the work to be done,
yeah,
they're not looking at the type of person. Because I think sometimes I get told this, which is very bizarre when I go into because I would love to do like because I've got so much going on in my career that sometimes I feel overwhelmed by things. So I'd love to have like a routine where I could just do social direction or creative
yeah,
direction for a brand, and then on the side I get to do my things because that would be easy to do
yeah,
for me. And I've been told by big like companies, oh, you get bored. I'm like, what do you mean I get bored? Having like a predictable wage and knowing when I'm going to be on and off and have an
yeah,
HR department, I'm going to be
yeah.
bored. I don't think I'd be bored. I think that would actually be
No,
good for me and you.
yeah, yeah.
But because there's still this like perception that if you're colourful or eccentric, that you're not going to be a serious
Hmm.
worker. And it's like, are you crazy? How would you? I don't think anyone's done what I've done.
For sure. I
And
mean,
I think that I had to be serious to do it. It's like that's what I would like to see change. And I think we just need to have more examples of people that are coming out. Because again, people shame you for talking about your own
mm,
successes. And it's like, well, the only reason I'm talking about my own successes is because we don't have PR agencies talking
yeah,
about
yeah,
them. Where are the people in PR talking about
yeah,
this? That's their job. Like we know about all of the amazing female led
yeah,
brands because they champion all these wonderful makeup artists, deservedly so.
yeah,
But
yeah.
there are also a lack of like diverse leaders being put to
A
the
hundred
front.
percent.
You see lists of things, and you never see variety. And oftentimes, when you even see the LGBT specific lists,
Hmm.
they're people that I've never even heard of. They're like an actor who happens to be LGBT that have got
Oh,
nothing to do with anything
there's a lot of
activism.
like crossover now with celebrities into like going into the world where it was more for like the more like normal like everyday person. It's like it's that
Mhm.
element's also been like taken over as well. I think.
How good skin that though?
I know
Fantastic.
skin's looking great too. So how do you like your skin to be finished? I know you said you haven't got the sun drops with you. You're going to go in the gel. Cool.
Yes.
I
Now,
am going to.
how much am I meant to use? Because I'm going to put on like about that much.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. Good. The 2 to 3 pumps is quite good. I'm gonna do sun drops and a cream. And while we're applying this, I was gonna ask, what? Obviously, you've seen so much product throughout the years.
Mhm.
What's one thing that actually like triggers you to actually buy a product these days? Do you get influenced by like any marketing, or is there what's like one thing that you would kind of like see that would make you want to buy a product these days?
I love supporting brands that have a story that I admire and that
Yeah,
have been. I'm a vegan, so I'm always looking for things like when there's an ethical side of the brand.
yeah.
I love I love learning about different like new brands. Like I love working with CW and like
I
going
see
to the product demo
W
and
is great too.
meeting. Yeah, I'm meeting the new founders because you get to know all these different stories of these incredible people and trying to work out like it's not only the story now because I think we've got so advanced in how we make cosmetics that they are kind of all similar. It's hard to be
Yeah.
innovative now because they're so wonderful. You can access the production of wonderful things. But I love all like I love working with Lima or Lima Laser.
Mhm.
Their laser is absolutely bonkers. It's like I feel like I'm living in the future every time I
What is
use
it?
it.
Is
It's
it like is it
that's
hair removal or is it like the resurfacing skin?
no, it's actually neither. It was a laser that they were using to regrow cartilage when people had actually damaged knees and
And that
damaged
works.
joints, and it would grow. It can regrow
Wow.
cartilage, and they actually noticed that it was repairing the skin. So
Wow.
it turns on the cell activation without any damage. So it's extremely expensive. Like the Pro device is about 5 grand, but it's
It's
one
worth it
of
in
the
terms
best
of
things.
what the how you use it and stuff like that.
Well, it doesn't feel like anything. It goes like 11 centimeters deep into your skin, and
Yeah.
it just makes your skin turn back on. And I love all futuristic things like that. So
Might
that's
have to send
that's
me the
my
link.
jam.
I like research. I love looking at like the new types of like devices and trends and like what people are using and like how they work. So yeah, send me the link if you want.
I will
I love it.
do. I will do. I love things like that. I also love fragrance. So when there's a new brilliant fragrance out, I'm always hunting
Perfume.
for different things like that.
Did
Yeah.
you did you try Charlotte Tilbury's new line of
I
fragrances?
did. I actually worked with the fragrance house that did the first fragrance she
Oh,
did. So I trained with them actually myself. So I don't love the AI ones. I like the previous one she did, even though it was mostly that ISO molecule, which is like the
yeah,
pheromone thing.
yeah,
But I don't know. I'm not a huge. There was another brand that's kind of like they tried to market it as like AI had reinvented extinct flowers,
yeah.
which I thought was
I haven't seen this AI thing.
so the Charlotte Tilbury perfumes, they were made by AI.
Were they? What the five, six, the different scents, the magic and stuff like that? Really?
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
what they got them to just what formulate it and then they just produced it.
yeah.
I didn't know that. Wow,
And
wow, interesting.
I don't think they kind of, I don't think robots can smell. Let's leave it like
Wow,
that.
we'll leave that there. Well, Joe, we've got a final question and then we're going to wrap up and
Yep.
leave. But it's been
Okay.
so good. We've had such good conversation. I've learned so much, which has been great.
And
And
the
I feel like
skin
when we
is
show this,
amazing.
thank you, thank you, thank you. You should get closer. Um, cool. So, final question, last question. Um, what is the biggest self challenge you've had to overcome to be where you are, and what keeps your fire burning till this day?
um,
Quite a big question, deep question. Have a second to think about it if you want.
well, I think my biggest challenge is to not let things be taken in personally because I'm
Mm,
such a sensitive person and I went through this horrendous experience 10 years ago where I was actually assaulted in London and it ended up with me having a hole in my eye. So I was not able to see up close. And it didn't just affect my job, the way I could do makeup.
mm.
It affected my day-to-day life. I could not see in the shower anymore. I could not learn to drive a car anymore. So I had to deal with figuring out how I could work essentially disabled for the last 10 years. And I've
Does,
had
does
some medical care
does
that's
that
now.
still affect you to this day? That injury, what
So
happened?
I don't know how this has all come to be, but last year I had some medical care. I was going to Austria and Helsinki, and I've had several operations to try and get the whole closing up because it just wouldn't
Yeah,
shut. So there was
yeah.
constantly a damaged part of my eye. And I was in Helsinki, and I've just actually spoken about it for the first time, and the hole had healed.
Mm.
So I've just started to adjust to being able to see again, but I have to wear yellow glasses now. Like I don't know if you can see
To
on
filter
camera, but they're yellow.
to filter the Like,
Yeah, and I've got to wear them. Even my lenses, my contact lenses are yellow. They've got yellow in the middle of them, and I've got to do different things. I've got to sleep with like a gel in my eye every day, so I've had
to
to
have
like learn about all these different things.
like information and stuff like that.
Yeah,
So it's still something
and
that
just to
still
keep
affects you to
it.
this day.
Yeah, and I think like I can see now. I've had approval. I've just started to learn to drive after 10 years not being able to. So it's been like psychologically a lot to deal with.
Mm,
But that's been my biggest hurdle to overcome because I thought, and I guess that's why I am such a tenacious person because it's like if I can't do one thing, I don't give
yeah,
up. I
yeah,
still will find out a way to do
yeah.
it. But I think like I take things so personally when I can't do things as well as I want to. And when
Mm,
I was known as the best makeup
mhm.
artist, and then I couldn't see to do the best makeup anymore. And that I felt like I was letting down all the people that supported me and things.
More
And
so because it was you. It was you again.
yeah,
You knew what you were capable of and what you could do. It's like that final enemy was kind of like yourself in a way. Is that what you're kind of saying?
yeah, exactly. And it's like I think like now, my God, like all the lessons I've learned, all the things I can do, which I wouldn't have been taught.
Yeah,
So it has worked out in my favor, but
yeah.
I think I'm still kind of processing that, but I
Mm,
don't. There's nothing that has ever come my way that's been insurmountable.
mm.
I will always challenge
Persevere
things
and
that I
go
think
with
is
it.
wrong,
Yeah.
and I will get to my goal. But yeah, I think it's just I have to share how much I love the people in this
Mm,
industry because there's been so many people that have been in leadership roles who have had my back and
yeah,
saw something special in me, supported me for the last 20
yeah,
years, and that's been amazing. So I'm so grateful. But
yeah.
yeah.
So would you say it's like would you say it's people around you that kind of like motivate you, or is it you yourself? Or do you have an idea of kind of where you do you have an idea of where you want to be, where you kind of get where you kind of want to get to? What would you say? Which kind of one is it? Would you say?
I know what I'm going to do in the
Yeah,
future, and that's I'm going to be the top of what I do
yeah,
over everyone. I'm
yeah,
going to do that.
yeah,
I've got so many things. Like when I finish a project off, I've got a next
yeah.
project that I'm really thinking about. I want to do a book next.
You always
I've
keep
got my
them busy.
yeah. I've got my new latest in beauty line that's coming out on
Amazing.
Thursday, so that's going to be
Congrats.
launched, which I'm really excited about because the last one sold out in like 10 days. I was so excited.
Amazing. That's so good.
So I just want to keep on doing more, and I'd love to eventually launch my perfume because I've been working on a perfume for 2 years, but
Mm-hmm.
because I've had other sales, I can't market two products at the same time. So it's
Yeah,
like I didn't expect it to be sold so quickly to do
yeah,
another one, and I'm like, well, I can't launch the perfume in between it because then I've got more stuff after the perfume. So I'm like, oh
yeah.
my God, this is like a good problem,
A good problem.
but
That's amazing. I mean, you can always use that as like your case study to show what kind of worked and stuff like that. So it's always like a learning thing. But I think the biggest thing with you as well, I think like you've sustained yourself across all these years. So I feel like with whatever you do now, it's definitely going to be successful. And I look forward to seeing all of it because I know it's going to be amazing.
oh, thanks, Tony.
Build of credibility and authenticity.
Now I'm an old wizard.
No, but you're doing so good. Amazing,
Yes.
amazing. Good.
Thank you.
Cool.
I've had so much fun chatting today.
I
This has
know.
been really cool.
I'm, I'm gonna look forward to seeing some of the live and actually breaking this down because there's some major gems of wisdom that I think will be good for people to know and be aware of as well. Because I feel like by sharing our experiences, it also helps other people kind of like get into the industry and yeah, give them some familiarity on what's real. It's been a long day.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go drink a cup of tea. My dog's waiting for a walk. So, but Joe, it's been a great live. Hope it's been enjoyable for you
Yes.
too. Nice that
Yes.
we got like a facial treatment through it too.
Exactly.
Um, yeah, and
Send me some version of this to repost. I'd love to share it
yeah,
with my people as well.
for sure I will do. Have an
All
amazing
right.
day, and we'll be connected anyway. We'll speak soon anyway. But
Yay.
best of luck with everything.
Speak
Sounds amazing.
soon.
And thank you so much for the convo.
Thank you. Bye.
Take